Monkey Magic is a game about monkeys that's based on a TV show about monkeys, but no, not regular monkeys, that would be stupid. These are magic monkeys. They have magic powers. These monkeys know karate, and they can shoot fire, and they can become invulnerable to things. Magic monkeys are where it's at. I'm glad games are finally going this route. Now, in Monkey Magic, you are a magic monkey, and you run around a 2D world, basically platforming. But it's not your traditional platformer. It's actually a lot richer than your regular 90s platformer, even a platformer that's on a kind of later gen system of the 90s, like PlayStation 1. See, in Monkey Magic, you don't just run around in the foreground, you can actually go into the background, you can go into different layers of the level. It's a lot like Toomba in that respect. A level of Monkey Magic might not look that big at first, but then when you take into account there are different layers of the level, like you can go in the background several times, you can go back into the foreground several times. When you stretch all of that out, the level becomes really big, but also pretty damn confusing, especially when you have to do something like collect all the keys in the level to progress. You just don't know where all of them are, because they can just be in different dimensions and layers in different levels. So a lot of this game is just meticulously, sometimes aimlessly, running around trying to find something, and it can get pretty tough. The game gets even more complicated because this is a magic monkey after all, and the magic monkey has different kinds of magics he can use. For example, he can become small, he can shoot like fire to melt ice or whatever, but you don't just use that magic. There are two types of way you can use a magic. You can use the magic on yourself, or you can use the magic on something in the environment or an enemy. For example, let's use the magic that makes you shrink. If you use shrink on yourself, you become really tiny and you can get into tiny little crevices you couldn't otherwise get into. But then if you use it on something else, that thing becomes tiny. If you use it on an enemy, the enemy becomes tiny, and then it's a little easier to beat the enemy. If you use it on an obstacle in your way, the obstacle becomes tiny and you could either push it or jump over it. Like I said, it's pretty complex for just a 2D platformer. This really was kind of a new breed of platforming where there's a lot of things to consider. The game also has pretty good controls. They're not fantastic. I mean, we're not talking like Super Mario Bros. 3 controls in platforming, but the controls are responsive and they're absolutely good enough to have fun in the game. The game also looks good. I mean, for a 2D platformer, I wouldn't say it's anything special, but you know, it has pretty good scenery, and also the cutscenes in the game are just little snippets from the TV show with the same name, so that kind of helps out the story. It makes the game richer to actually have a nice story that you can keep up with. The monkey isn't just running around for no reason. There is a method to his primate madness. I think this is definitely a good game. It's not on my list of the 10 or 15 or 20 best side-scrolling platforming games of all time, but there's definitely a lot of fun to be had here. I think the one thing that I could say is bad in this game is the combat. I mean, when you mix the different magics you can use with combat, it kind of becomes a little richer and a little more fun, but just straight up hitting an enemy and having the enemy hit you, it's very rudimentary and just doesn't belong in a game that's this rich and challenging. The combat in this game is almost like from a different game altogether, from a different era. An era where we expected less from gaming. Nonetheless, it's a fun game, and that's why it gets an official Stan Birdman rating of a 7.8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, my friends.